Welcome back, everybody, to Cool's Reviews Deep Dives. It's our first one in a while, but we did give you quite a bit to ponder in that last one when we did the 3 hour Ghostbusters episode. So hopefully by now, your guys' minds have kind of gone back to normal and you guys can think properly again, and you're ready for another deep dive. Grayson was there. Grayson, are you feeling much better since our previous deep dive?
I mean, we'll see. So, spirits are high for right now.
Matt was also there. Matt, have you recovered since our 3 hour Ghostbusters deep dive?
No, I'm still reliving it in my head, man. Like, what could I have said differently?
And David, we know it haunts you nightly. Is this true?
All I know is I'm not talking about this movie for 3 hours.
All right. Well, I do know David's opinion on the movie. I don't know everyone else's, so this should be fun. I think this will be kind of a spicy one, but I want to say first off, we'll go person by person. Brandon, was this the first time you were watching this one?
I honestly I don't know. It's been if I had watched it, it was when I was a kid. I've just seen too many movies that I don't remember if I watched it or not.
Now, Matt, after mistakenly watching The Good Dinosaur and watching this one, did you watch this before?
I believe at one point I may have seen it with the kiddos, but I'm not 100% sure. But there were some scenes that looked familiar, so I think I had at one point.
David, you've seen this one obviously before this deep dive, correct?
I'm sorry. I'm just feeling really bad for Matt that he watched The Good Dinosaur. God, that's even worse than this movie.
Sam, what about you?
I have seen this before. I don't remember if I saw it in theaters or not. That I can't recall, but I did watch it as a kid. And I don't know, rewatching it kind of brought back memories, but at the same time, I was just like, yeah, there's a reason I think I only watched it once.
All right, so I think we get Sam's feelings. Grayson, first time watching it, or did you watch it before?
No, I saw this when I was real young, so.
Okay, good. Let's see. Nick, what about you? You've watched this one before?
Yeah, I did see this in theaters, I think in second grade, yeah.
Yeah, see, I remember actually seeing this one in theaters with my buddy Nathan. So
Yeah.
Dino fever was running high.
Exactly.
And then it would go kind of dead as far as media goes until probably Land of the Lost was probably the next kind of decently big movie after this one. Well, King Kong, 2005 probably, I would say. But this one has a long kind of troubled history that perhaps helped give us Jurassic Park. Also, we thought we would do this one because the ride at Disneyland Orlando will be closing. They're going to be redoing it as Indiana Jones. David, not a hard swap out there, correct?
No, because the original ride was actually Indiana Jones first. They took the exact same ride mechanics, same path and everything, put it over in Orlando at Animal Kingdom and just made it Dinosaur. So they just changed out the scenery, animatronics and everything, but it was the exact same ride as what the Indiana Jones ride in Disneyland is. But from what I understand, this is not going to be just turning it into that one. It will be an all-new Indiana Jones ride, at least the storyline and such. He's going on a search for a cryptid creature of some kind. So he's going into a Mayan temple that you're tagging along. But yeah, not difficult at all. All they did was basically reskin the Indiana Jones ride.
Now, has anyone else ridden the dinosaur ride? Okay, Grayson, we'll kick it off to you first, and we'll go back to David for this one. Can you walk the viewers through the dinosaur ride in Orlando?
It's been years since I've ridden the ride, but essentially you get in like a time vehicle. It then takes you through like a flash trip right before the asteroid hits Earth. So like you're supposed to be on like a reclamation mission or something like that. At least that's what I remember from the story of the ride. So you go through it. It's kind of slow to start off with, but then once the carnivores or the carnodons or whatever they're called start like attacking, that's when the ride gets fun. So it's like 10 seconds of like intensity and then the ride ends, from what I remember anyway.
All right. David, would you concur with that statement?
So, what I would say, Dinosaur the ride is probably the second best thing that came from this movie. The first of which being something that I'm sure we'll touch on later. But yes, the ride you're going into, you actually start out in a museum, which is pretty cool. You're seeing some, different attractions about the dinosaurs. You're in present day, and they have a time vehicle, as Grayson mentioned, and you're kind of being recruited to, they're going to send you back to just look at some stuff. You're going to be far away from the meteor shower. No worries about that. And then, of course, once the higher ups are out of the room, the scientist guy is like, okay, we're actually on a secret mission to get this specific dinosaur. And of course, it's the main dinosaur from Dinosaur the movie. But they don't mention that. They show you who he is, but they don't make any relation to the movie. But that's who he is. I think Aladon, is that his name? Something like that?
Aladar, yeah.
Yeah, Aladar. Yeah, that's who you're trying to save. You're trying to save that specific dinosaur. So they say that they are going to, when you get in your time vehicle, he's rerouted you to go get him. And you end up there, and it's right as the meteors are starting to come down. So it's really close to it. But he's like, oh, you got plenty of time. And then, of course, as every theme park attraction, something goes wrong. So the meteors come faster than they thought, and it's going crazy. There's dinosaurs all over the place. The carnivorous ones trying to eat you, and you actually see a good 10 to 15 dinosaurs during the ride. So there's a lot of really cool scenes. Literally none of them have anything to do with the movie. You don't see any other really dinosaur that you're like, oh, it's the dinosaur movie. No, they don't care. It's just animatronic dinosaurs, which is fine. And then at the end, you do find the dinosaur you're looking for, and he actually saves you. He manages to stop a tree from falling and crushing your vehicle. He's holding it up so you can pass under it while the giant carnivorous one's trying to attack you. And then at the very last minute before the meteor hits, you get brought back to modern day, and you just so happen to have also brought back the main dinosaur with you. So he makes it too, and everybody's happy.
Now, would it perhaps also be safe to say, besides Indiana Jones, maybe some influence from the Jurassic Park ride?
I think it's definitely the ending, because I know the original Jurassic Park river ride, you go through right as the T-Rex it comes down to eat you, you plummet down. They do something very similar to this, just without water. You see the big carnivore rears up, and he's right in front of you, and that's when they take the picture, because everybody's like, oh, so there, and then your Jeep plummets down. It's more roller coaster-esque than the Jurassic Park one, but I could definitely see a lot of similarities.
And Nick, have you been on this ride?
I have been on this ride. So funny. It's been so many years since I was on this ride. But I remember being pretty feeling slightly lackluster by it when I actually saw it. This one's at Disney World, right? It's not at Disneyland.
Oh yeah, I'm sure the audience has been commenting this whole time.
Yeah, it's only at Animal Kingdom. The one at Disneyland is, of course, Indiana Jones.
Yeah, and it's so funny because I saw the Indiana Jones ride before it became the dinosaur ride, and I remember thinking, well, where the hell is the Indiana Jones ride? I remember missing the Indiana Jones ride. Not to say that it was that horrible. It's not that horrible. I also kind of like the movie, but yeah, I'll let you guys continue.
All right, Brendan, have you been on this ride?
Not that I know of.
Okay. Matt, you were in Orlando recently. Did you get a chance, or were you just at Universal?
No, we did both Disney World and Universal, but unfortunately, due to conferences and everything, it was only about a 4-hour window that we were there, so we hit some of the top rides prior to any of those. So that was not one of them.
Yeah, and at least at this time, I have not been on it, but I will be in Orlando in a couple days, so perhaps I will splice something in if I do get the chance to jump in on Saturday, maybe. All right, so just got out of the ride, as you can see. Wasn't bad. We'll talk about it more at some point. All right, to make this video not go over way too long, I'll just kind of briefly describe my feelings with the ride, and maybe at some point we can bring the group back on and talk more collectively about the ride. Overall, the wait line wasn't terrible. I think it was like 45 minutes, I believe. So not bad. And Disney honestly always does kind of a good job with how you are cued through like a story. In this case, you're cued through the museum and got to see some fossils and different dinosaurs, as well as those neat little statues out front. And then, I mean, it really moved really quick. And then when you're on the ride, it was kind of short. I will say, not the biggest fan of the ride. Maybe it was just what I went on. It was really, really shaky. I will say I enjoyed seeing the animatronics. Some of them were really, really good. The Styracosaurus, for one in particular, very, very good. The Carnotaurus ones were not so great, but it's pretty nostalgic to see. Even though I've never been on the ride before this, but I would see a lot of times in magazines and on the internet, so it was pretty cool. So as far as the ride go, the animatronics and everything, the dinosaurs were really cool to see. I did get to see the Alioramus before it had been removed, and yeah, it was really cool to check it off the list. It was not my favorite ride in Animal Kingdom, but I am glad I was able to go on it. But yeah, so we'll kind of get to production. This one has an interesting production. Started back in 1984. A long, long time ago. Phil Tippett was one of the people kind of attached to the project. And they wanted Greyson, who did RoboCop director.
Gus Van Sant. No, not that. Paul Verhoeven.
Yeah. So they had approached him to do this, because this was Disney's dark age, when everyone says all the kids movies were kind of darker. So Dennis Muren and Phil Tippett were attached at one point to do this kind of dark wildlife-esque movie about a migration of Styracosaurus. At the end of the dinosaurs, they'd be traveling somewhere, and at the end they'd fight this Tyrannosaurus, and the Styracosaurus would come out on top, but only for the comet's hit, and everything would die. So that's kind of where this movie started. They had started to build kind of props. They had a T-Rex puppet going on. But then Disney kind of meddled a little bit, and so Tippett left. I know, Grayson, big shock there, right? Disney meddling with their movies. Perhaps back then, right? But they kind of try to bring it back on in the early 90s, but a small film called Jurassic Park had come out. On Jurassic Park, Phil Tippett and Dennis Muren both were working and gave us that film. And so they put Dinosaur back on ice. So it's been on ice 84 up to now. But when Jurassic Park did really, really well, it was the highest grossing movie of all time until Titanic came out in 1997. Disney obviously thought they could cash in on the dino craze. And so they started kind of work on this project again. They cycled through some different directors, one of which did Honey, I Shrunk the Kids and Black Beauty. So he was attached for a little bit, as well as Disney was planning to do their dinosaur themed ride, so they thought they could tie it all in together. But the dinosaur ride was quite a bit ahead of the movie, so that's why, like David said, not a lot of connections to the actual film, because it was a separate project. It was actually, what was it, Countdown to Extinction, or?
Yeah, that's still the technical name, is Dinosaur Countdown to Extinction.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Some of these directors, as well as the artists, decided to leave the project because Disney wanted a full-blown talking dinosaur movie with singing and everything. And the artists were like, no, we will not subject ourselves to that. And they left. Now, eventually they did get it off the ground. They kind of started retooling some of the scripts. There was going to be two iguanodons, Aladar and his brother. He was going to get lost at sea and come into home with these lemurs. Kind of changed up a little bit. Then it was just Aladar with a just one lemur, Suri, who was going to be played live action by a person in a suit. So I'm sure that would have aged perfectly. Originally, they wanted live action lemurs. But yeah, then, after all of that, they finally kind of came to a middle point. They changed out the Strachosaurus to Iguanodon 2 because it was more horse-like, they said, so it was easier to animate. Of course, they had to do some facial stuff to give it more emotions and stuff like that. And that's kind of where we got to. They did end up releasing the intro of this movie, which is notably not talky, as a trailer into theaters, and people were ecstatic. They were excited to see it. Walking with Dinosaurs, Jurassic Park, The Lost World, all these things were coming out. Dino craze was going on. When it came out mixed. I think it's still mixed on IMDb today. I think it's like 6.4, 6.5 out of 10. There's people that love it, people that don't. One of the big things was the talking animals, especially the lemurs. And that's kind of the production. Greyson, anything from there that would surprise you or that you could see, I guess, in the final product?
Honestly, overall, the story, I know, like, it took years to make and everything else like that, but with how quickly it looks like they were trying to rush this out to still try to keep up with, it feels like it's 10 years too late because Jurassic Park came out, Land Before Time came out, and everything else came out way before this movie did. So it feels like they were trying to rush to get something close enough to be representative of Disney, but try to cash in onto a trend. So I can definitely see through that production story how that definitely fit in there.
Matt, what about you? Anything that sticks out to you from the development stages?
Not really. I mean, for when this movie came out, time frame wise, it's not as attractive of a production as I thought it should have been or could have been, being that I think it was in the 2000s that this came out.
Nick, what about yourself?
Well, yeah, I think it was Greyson who mentioned that they had claimed they worked really hard on, or a long time on, this story. I feel like probably not, right? The writers probably didn't work too terribly hard on this particular story because it's just so simple. It's got this wholesome kind of approach. Super, super simple, easy story. And not too many super incredibly funny moments, which I thought was interesting. But for pre-production, I would say that this movie did kind of somewhat break grounds according to some CGI artists. I remember, if you guys follow, what is that channel? There's a CGI channel.
Where they react to movies?
Yeah, where they react to movies, and they had been requested to do Dinosaur, and they said for the time that it actually did kind of break grounds in terms of just being overall relatively good CGI. And they said it's an interesting way to say that it's an animated film, because it's more I think especially at that time, the expectation would be that it would be more of a cartoon, but it's basically just straight up CGI. So that's all I have to say for basically.
Sam, Brendan, do either of you have any thoughts on the pre-production stages?
I do not.
I also don't.
No, David, are you sad that Jurassic Park just didn't kill this off totally?
Yes.
Just a matter of
The world would have been a better place.
Well,
I mean, okay, it's not the worst, but I do feel like they definitely jumped on the hype of wanting to do Jurassic Park-esque something like, oh, dinosaurs are hot, kids love dinosaurs, to try to do something like that. I do think for the time, the CGI was okay. For what it is, I get it. I'm actually almost interested in how it would have looked if they would have done classic Disney animation style, if they would have hand-drawn everything. That I think it actually could have looked really good. Because, I mean, if you take Dinosaur and watch it next to something else at the time. Like, let's say you watched it against like Bug's Life. Came out a couple years before that, Bug's Life looks better. And it might just be the cartoony feel versus the realistic they were trying to go for. I almost feel like Disney was like, oh, Pixar can do, computer graphics. I bet we can too. And kind of tried their hand at it and learned that we should leave that to Pixar. But then, of course, Pixar came out with a good Dinosaur later and showed us that they can be just as awful at dinosaur movies. So I don't know. But it's interesting that this was all the way back to the 80s, and it just kind of kept getting recycled and pushed off and changed up. Maybe it could have used another decade of tinkering and working with before releasing it.
Right. Yeah. The puppet itself of the original T-Rex, and they chose not to do the T-Rex because obviously Jurassic Park had done it twice, and they wanted to be different. But the original T-Rex is better than Carnosaur. So coming out earlier than Carnosaur did, I don't know. Carnosaur's not super high budget. I'm sure not many of you have seen it. Grayson, have you seen Carnosaur?
No, I haven't seen that, but I've seen the box art, and it's a gem.
Yeah,
Hey.
Carnosaur was wild. The Carnosaur was way more like of a visceral kind of movie, in my opinion. And also, wasn't Carnosaur didn't even have speaking. That was another thing in terms of pre-production that I wanted to say. This movie was supposed to originally not contain any dialogue between real people, right? So that's a really interesting twist and turn that Disney would do. That's kind of like not a super big surprise because they want this movie to reach that younger demographic. It's just an interesting choice, I guess, to then all of a sudden go full bore on this sort of half-ass, wholesome, meant to be super wholesome family type story.
You know what? I do want to add, and I don't know if this was something you want to bring up as like a subject later, but one thing they did do right, which I miss from animated stuff now, they went for actual voice actors for most of the parts. It was not a, big celebrity fest of what's the biggest voices we can get, It was people that, okay, nobody major. I think the biggest name that was in it was Hayden Panettiere, who was like a nobody at that point, and even now, that's kind of like B tier. But yeah, I do appreciate the days when animated movies were not all just about how many celebrities can we get to voice this cartoon character. So they did a good job there. I do like their choices for voice actors.
Yeah, it's very different than what was that movie, Imaginary Friends, where I think they just put as many big name actors in it as possible.
That makes it good, right?
I mean, it makes it expensive. If you like just expensive things and no actual substance, then yes.
I mean, that's why Scarlett Johansson voices all the dinosaurs in the new Jurassic Park coming out, right?
Yes, that was the new groundbreaking thing today.
It's just her roaring.
Which I don't know if you've seen our thoughts on the Jurassic World Rebirth, but I was able to put a T-Rex slowly creeping onto the screen right before you made your noise. So it was like front and center when you made your noise. And then Matt was like, "Did you hear that? It was really scary."
That's amazing. I love it.
Yeah, so this film, pretty basic to tell you guys the plot line, and then we'll just get into our thoughts on it. But Aladar, his mom, I guess, is watching over the nest, which gets disturbed, the whole herd does, by a lone Carnotaurus, which breaks out and kills a Pachyrhinosaurus. Then his egg gets transported to the island. He grows up with lemurs. I guess this takes place at the end of the Cretaceous. We'll talk about that later. But he sees the comet hitting the Earth and is able to get past a pyroclastic flow. Better than Chris Pratt, but I guess that's something Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom copied from this movie. And then they go on a journey, much like Land Before Time, to find the Great Valley, right? Things ensue. A lot of characters do die. We see the tolls of going through a desert. And surprisingly, the Carnotaurs being the predators and the secondary villains, I want to say, hold up better than a lot of Jurassic World carnivores hold up as just being animals that are looking for food. And then at the end, after Crone dies by the Carnotaur and the Carnotaur falls to his death, we have a happy ending. All the dinosaurs are living in a secret, unknown little land. I'm sure waiting for Sir Arthur Conan Doyle to write about the Lost World at some point. And then, yeah, it's pretty simple. Grayson, anything I left out of there, I guess?
Pretty spot on. I mean, the one thing that I would mention is that being written and released in the early 2000s, it is very 2000s trope heavy. Like, it's very, like, the amount of pee and poop jokes in this movie just took me back to that era of just kids' movies from the early 2000s. I know it's just entirely side subject, but it's just something that came to mind while you were talking about the synopsis. But it's a 2000s movie for sure.
Well, there was also a fourth wall break by the Ankylosaurus. I forget the name, but it acts like a dog. But the very end, it like looks directly into the camera and smiles. And so we got a fourth wall break, I guess, there. Also, speaking of like the 90s, 2000s, the scenes with the egg and the lightning going around it, very Godzilla 1998-esque with the lone egg. I kept thinking that, as well as the soundtrack kind of seemed Godzilla-esque.
And we all know how great that Godzilla was.
Hey, it's the second. Oh, wait, no, there's more.
No, save it for the Godzilla deep dive.
Yes, if you want to see us deep dive Matthew Broderick's Godzilla.
No, all Godzillas. Just a whole Godzilla fest.
All right, so we're going to have like a 38-hour live stream where we just go movie by movie. Yeah, so Matt, anything I left out from the synopsis, I guess? Plot?
No, pretty much was it. It was very, I don't know, what do you call it, even, Steven, not like super lot going on. It was very similar to what reminded me of the Land Before Time, you know.
Brendan, Sam, anything I left out, you think? Nick, anything I left out?
Well, he gets bullied around the whole time by the bigger one. So he's basically like, he's sort of like the wholesome wimp throughout the movie.
Hey, until he has like an entire herd of animals to stick up to one Carnotaurus. Poor thing was just hungry, you know, just wanted to eat.
Yeah, dude, the Carnotaur really gets the short end of the stick.
Right.
Which, by the way, it's a Carnotaurus, right? That's what the actual named dinosaur that they used for it. And that was why I was so confused as a kid, because you mentioned that movie Carnosaur. Mm-hmm. And Carnosaur isn't like a real dinosaur. It's just the name they made for that movie. And so I was like, well, wait, is a Carnosaur a Carnotaurus or what the hell?
Yeah, no, they are Carnotaurus sasteri, and we'll get into more of that later. As far as the design changes from the real animal, I do think, as far as in the movie, probably the most iconic characters, which is kind of funny because Aladar is your front and center. He's at the ride. You walk in at the museum, he's right there. But the Carnotaurus, I think, as far as pop culture, has gone further. If you see like the dinosaur model makers like Rebor and Nanmu, probably making the Carnotaurus versus an Aladar. David, anything I left out before we get into likes and dislikes?
No, they're really, it was not plot heavy. You could tell it was definitely going for very family friendly, very easy to follow. Aladar was the stereotypical, hero kind of underdog that every kid could kind of imagine as himself, somebody to root for, even though, like you said, he was not the most iconic dinosaur there. He's kind of forgettable, honestly. Even his color palette, very just meh. Yeah, I mean, honestly, I saw it in theaters as a kid, and I remember not caring if he lived or died.
Right.
Like, if this movie would have ended with the meteors, like, okay.
Yeah, it definitely would have changed it. And yeah, the Carnotaurus has As far as being like iconic, I think the red coloration you've seen in any other media, including Jurassic World, they're now red everywhere. Brendan, we'll start with the pros. Give us something good about this movie.
Where's the Jeopardy theme song?
Brendan, I thought you were going to say a certain tie-in marketing they did with a certain fast food company.
My coworker and I were talking about this movie today, and we both said that was the best thing. As a kid, having
10,000%. That's what I mentioned is the number one best thing. There's the theme park ride at number 2, and the number one best thing from this movie was the McDonald's dinosaur puppets.
Okay, McDonald's, yes.
I think the movie showed it gave a good lesson to kids about sticking up to what you believe and how you were raised, and don't let people just push you around. That was one of the biggest things I took from it.
Okay. Matt, what about you? What's a pro you took away from this movie?
I actually was very excited the movie ended. I think that was probably the best part of it, and it came to an end. No,
was this a good dinosaur again?
Oh yeah, the dinosaur movie. No, it's hard because, like I said, you expect so much for a movie going into, the year it was released to have better graphics, better scenes, better everything, better plot line. I really had a hard time finding something good about this movie. So maybe I'll stick along the lines with Brendan there, and it did maybe teach a good story for the younger kids, like not to let people push you around, and if you keep persevering, that there is a green grass on the other end.
All right, David, what about you? Something positive from this movie?
I got 2 things that I think are positive. And it's not necessarily the movie itself, but I do think it kept dinosaurs in the kind of cultural sphere being talked about. I think it's interesting, only 2 years after this movie, so who knows what influences may have come from this, is one of probably the greatest series as far as prehistoric animated movies with Ice Age. It was only 2 years after this, and I think we can all agree was a far superior movie. Tons of sequels, tons of, had a whole cinematic universe basically. So that was great. But I mean, we're a bunch of, middle-aged guys talking about this. I think ultimately the biggest thing Dinosaur had going for it, the biggest positive, is when it came out, it probably inspired a lot of kids to be interested in dinosaurs. It probably, spawned lifelong interest in a lot of them. Who knows what they've gone on to do now? How many paleontologists, are out there in the field because of this movie? That this added to that excitement, or just kids, being more interested in history or science in general. We can see a lot wrong with the movie now, but when it came out, I think it probably played a really good role in getting this somewhat educational, realistic look at dinosaurs out there. It wasn't just cartoony. It did remind kids that, hey, dinosaurs were real. Like, this was a thing. They were out there. And maybe they lived lives that we can understand were kind of like ours, with, the interactions and things like that, the social dynamics of the herds and everything. So, again, I think it's a terrible movie, but it probably accomplished more positive than negative in the ultimate run of things.
Very well said, Nick.
Yeah, I guess I'll piggyback on that. I will speak from my younger self, in that I was obsessed with dinosaurs when this movie came out already. So it wasn't like, it didn't help me to be more interested in dinosaurs, but I will say that it even helped the girls that I knew as a second grader to get interested in dinosaurs. The girls, who, by the way, gave no shits about dinosaurs when I was young. And so for it to do that was a feat that was second to none, in my opinion.
Or Greyson.
My turn. Okay. Sorry, kidding. Honestly, one of the good things, speaking of, archaeology and bringing back things from the past, it brought back Walk the Dinosaur. So another positive on that side. Honestly, like it's not a bad or it's not a great movie. It's nostalgic for me because it reminds me of just stuff from when I was a wee baby. But yeah, I mean, bog standard movie. If you look at like a lot of the adventure stories that were coming out at the time, it's pretty much a copy and paste for Disney. So it's not anything to write home about, but it's really not anything unless you're like, deeply, want to see a dinosaur adventure movie where the dinosaurs talk. It's really, that's pretty much it. But the one other thing that I did like, speaking of lessons from the movie, was standing up to leadership that may not be acting in the interest of the group, because just because they're in the lead does not mean they're doing what's best for everybody. They may just be doing what's best for themselves. And so as a lesson, that's a good one, especially if you're young. But yeah, as the only other good thing that came out of the movie was the puppets, and the Carnotaur was the best one, hands down. So
to be fair, I would watch that movie again right now if somebody recreated it with just the McDonald's puppets.
That would be amazing.
David,
that would
we
make
can
it.
do
That
it.
would. It would go from here to here just instantly. We could turn it into like an episodic thing, like 10 minutes of the movie each. Yes, gotta
All right.
happen.
So next summer, that's going to be our big project. No historical things. We are going to be recreating Disney with the hand puppets from McDonald's and their little McDonald toys.
We'll be clearing a 7.5 on the IMDb scale. Easy.
Grayson, as long as we're better than The Flash.
What was your idea for that? Just like you actually doing the voices and messing with the puppets like that?
Oh, absolutely. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Melodar.
Just like, oh, Melodar. Oh, Melodar. I can't do that. No, we have to stand up to him, whole thing. And then I don't think they made a lemur puppet, so we'll just get like a Zumba Foo like plush or something, and just just have it kind of fly around.
King Julian,
Actually,
Burger King puppet from.
There you go. Pull some Madagascar in there. So I wanted to mention real quick. I think the best dinosaur kids movie, at least of the like 90s, early 2000s, was definitely We're Back. Did you guys see that movie?
That's such an amazing reference.
I did. That was really good.
Nostalgic.
It's such an underrated, like, as soon as people remember it, they're like, oh, wait, that movie was great. Like, Dinosaur should have took a lot of tips from that. That's how you do a kid dinosaur movie.
It, like, scared me as a kid, dude. We're back.
When they turned back into, like, the evil dinosaur? Yeah. It's terrifying. It was great.
Well, yeah, and it's based off a book, so we can bring Alex on for that one when we do that deep dive eventually. No, but that one was good. I think Spielberg produced that one, correct?
Probably, but yeah, that was really good. Alex is probably still looking for that Secret Wars panel from last week, right?
We'll ask him when we do our next comic podcast.
He might find it by later this month. Yeah.
One other thing that I forgot to bring out too, the voice of whatever the yellow lemur was in the movie was also the voice of Daxter from Jak and Daxter. For all the video game enthusiasts out there, that's one,
I love that little factoid. That's hilarious.
I think what happened is they took the criticism of people being like, no, we don't want a hardcore singing, dancing Disney movie. And they took the movie way too seriously. I think, like Grayson said, the only jokes in there were like the poop and fart joke type things. Besides that, the movie itself, it didn't like to have a lot of fun with itself. It was a very almost serious dinosaur movie. And I'm not sure if that's what anybody really wanted.
I mean, yeah, see, I think that's where their original vision, the people, I should say, that originally kind of pitched this, and Disney's vision met in the middle, and this is what we got. And it's a very, if it went one way or the other, it'd be a different movie, and maybe for the better. I don't know.
Well, I mean, if they were
think,
gonna,
oh, no,
sorry,
go
ahead,
on,
Keegan.
go on real quick.
No, I was just gonna say, I mean, with Phil Tippett's original vision, we still got that regardless in the Walk with Dinosaurs, that TV series that came out. I don't know why that he thought that making an entire feature-length film about a migration from one spot to another would be something anybody would really want to put money into or time into, to sit through that long of a time period without that just being the only event that you have going on. But I mean, regardless, we still, it's, if you look at the Walk with Dinosaurs, I forgot where I was going with that. So that's my point. There you go. Merry Christmas.
Hey, this movie is at least aged better than the Walking with Dinosaurs movie, even though their dinosaurs are better. Not the TV series from BBC, but like the 2015-16 movie they did, where instead of going with the talking, they were talking, but they weren't moving their mouths. So it's really weird, and there's really annoying kid actor voices in there, and yeah, I don't know. At some point, too,
interesting thing to me about the choice of like what you're saying, meeting in the middle with Disney, who's like, no, we need happy-go-lucky, family-friendly film. We need this to be like happy and funny and yada yada. But they were like, well, we weren't even gonna have them talking. Like this was gonna be a pretty serious thing. That like I would just think the original vision was going for a more serious approach. For sure. And to try to make it be this funny thing is like, I don't know. That's like when you guys had mentioned Ice Age. Like Ice Age is so much funnier, has just so much more comedic value, but also a movie about kind of just a walking journey, you know? So many movies about just a long walking journey, I guess.
You know, it's interesting. I kind of wonder what it would have been like with the original of no talking. I wonder if they might have had like a narrator or something to kind of keep the storyline moving and progressing, or go like full nature documentary almost, but telling the story. It would have been really interesting to see what their vision was for a full-length movie, because at the time, I don't know if we'd had really a full-length no speaking, like especially for kids, right? Like it might have been kind of an innovative thing back then.
Right. Yeah, no, I'll definitely have to send you guys. Somebody did a really good retrospective on the whole production thing. So I'll make sure to send that to you guys, because it's interesting. There's storyboards. Aladar, I think this was later on once they kind of made these, well, obviously once they made the switch, where Aladar, his grandparents at one point, there's a river crossing, and to slow down the Carnotaurus, they were going to make this big sacrifice and sacrifice themselves to the Carnotaurus. So it's definitely a little bit different of a tone. Sam, I see you wearing our Jurassic World, the exhibition hat from Chicago. Me and Brendan got first show there, so that was pretty cool to be. It's changed a lot. Obviously, we've gone back. What is something positive for you from this movie?
The positive thing from this movie was when I was a kid, I wasn't as into dinosaurs, but it definitely brought me more into like dinosaurs as a whole. I mean, I guess I really did like dinosaurs, but it was a good starter point because Jurassic World still scared me a lot more. So this was one that I could kind of enjoy. And another positive is like I like the colors of the Carnotaurs. I thought they had a very good color palette, I should say.
Yeah, no, the Carnotaurus is definitely by far the most iconic thing to come from the movie. Rebor actually had to reissue their model they made of it because it was so popular, it sold out and people were demanding it more, that they were like, all right, we'll reissue it. And so it's back out there. For me, something kind of positive is, I guess, to be a little bit different than everyone, is how they portrayed the dinosaurs for the majority. There's still kind of that Disney-esque flair to it. But at the end of it, a lot of the dinosaurs are just acting like animals. And so that was definitely different, especially for a kids movie. You know, the Carnotaurs, even though they're the secondary villains, aren't out just for revenge or something silly like that, or just to kill to kill. They were looking for food and water and just being animals and this and that. Carnotaur's design, another good thing. And I think at some point, there's something me and Alex were talking about. We'll talk about Disney's dark age financially, not their dark age, because they had a bunch of dark cartoons in the 80s, but to try to talk about those 7 films and decide which ones are the best, including Dinosaur and like Emperor's New Groove and what was another one that came out that time?
Treasure Planet.
Treasure Planet, yeah. And then there's like what's the cow one? The
Atlantis.
Home on the Range.
Home on the Range. Yeah, see.
Well, I can answer your question right now. Emperor's New Groove. There you go.
I will second that.
Hey.
Right.
And if you want an interesting story about something going through hell to get made, they even to this day, the archives do not have a complete script of the Emperor's New Groove because of just how much a mess that entire thing was. It is so different than what it was originally going to be. I mean, I think it's amazing what we ended up getting. It's a fantastic movie. But the story behind that, I think they even have a documentary that's just about how ridiculously hard it was to get that movie made and how many changes it went through.
Yeah,
That's
wasn't
amazing.
Pacha originally supposed to be like Chris Farley? Wasn't it supposed to be him to like play off of David Spade or something like that?
I think that was one of the things, kind of like how he used to be Shrek.
Yeah. So I think they're trying to tap into all that.
Rabbit hole in the beginning, the like lost media of Shrek. We're getting so off topic with that though.
Yeah, Emperor's New Groove was going to be called Kingdom of the Sun, and it was like a very serious Mayan themed like fairy tale. It was nothing like what we got.
So did Prince of Egypt kind of halt those plans, you think?
No, it was just bad planning. Everything that could go wrong did. People didn't agree. Like, it was a mess. We'll do it another time, but it's crazy.
Another time. See, we will tease deep dives all day. Sounds a little bit like Jurassic Park 3 script situation where they just came to set and they would have a script for that day of filming. So for what we got of that film was kind of interesting.
Just real quick, Keegan, you mentioned Jurassic Park 3, and you were also mentioning that for some reason it seemed like the media had just started skinning Carnotaurus as red. Isn't that what you had said? In Jurassic Park 3, there's also a scene where they find the phone in a giant pile of fecal matter, dino fecal, and there's a huge Carnotaurus that's also red. What do you think inspired the red-themed palette for the Carnotaurus?
Well, I can tell you, it was a Ceratosaurus in JP3, but if you read the novelization, the kids one, it was Carnotaurus. So I think they changed it there as well. And I think sometimes red just looks cool. Pyroraptor gets produced as a red animal a lot of times, even in Prehistoric Planet, just because it's called Pyroraptor. Even though its fossils were just called that because it was found thanks to a forest fire, not because it was like red or anything. And it's just a leg bone, so it always interests me there. And I know Lost World had them green because they were chameleons, but they color changed. I'll send you guys the video for that because it's, if you guys haven't read the Jurassic novels, vastly different from the movies, very dark. I suggest them; they're good. But that gets us to the big question: what is the worst thing in this film, Brendan? What is your biggest con in this movie?
I mean, I can't really think of one, just because, I mean, I would say graphics or something, but I mean, based on what the timeline of what it came out as, I don't think they're bad. I don't think the movie's as bad as everyone else does. My coworker was over the moon that anyone ever hated the movie. He thought that was blasphemy. And I don't know.
So what you're saying is your coworker is going to be very excited to watch this.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. I never felt like it was stupid enough for me to skip, which I rate a lot of my movies on if it has too many things of I want to fast forward through stupid parts, and I never felt like that for the movie. So I don't know if I really have a bad thing.
I mean, that's a fair thing. At the end of the day, movies are entertainment. So if you don't feel like you have to skip it when it's on TV, it's a good day. But not a good dinosaur, Matt. Worst thing here. Was it the green dinosaur?
Yes. Green dinosaur and the orphaned kid. No, again, just kind of, I don't know. I had a hard time getting into it. It just wasn't entertaining, maybe. I think they didn't know whether they wanted to go with just like a movie with animals making noises and stuff like that, or having your talking animals, where occasionally, oh, they're talking. Oh, no, wait, they're back to making the noises that a dinosaur or, monkey would make, supposedly. So I think the distinction there was off as well.
All right, David, can you pinpoint something here that was just bad, and if taken out would have made it better?
All of the characters. Literally, none of the characters needed to be there. The personalities are as thin as paper. The storyline was stupid as hell. They took like something that should have been maybe a 5-minute like skit, short animated thing, and stretched it into an entire movie, which never had to happen. There was no reason to have lemurs. I don't think that there would have been, would they even been around historically at that time? Yeah, no. Mammals were not that advanced. The best was maybe like a little mouse thing or something. None of that made any sense. It's just like they were like, well, we got to have something cuddly to make toy. No, dumb. Whole thing was stupid. None of them had a personality. I can't remember any of their names. I didn't even watch it again before this because I didn't want to put myself through that. It was a bad movie. There was a bad storyline. I would have rather watched just like a 2-hour, here's a scenery, and we just animated dinosaurs walking back and forth, because that would have been more interesting. This movie made kids dumber. Okay? Yeah, sure. Maybe it would have gotten them into science and stuff. Great. Go get your education outside of this. But this movie, no. It was just, no. It is not the ticket. This is why we took so long to get another Disney dinosaur movie, and they screwed it up again. So we probably won't see another one until like 2040. But it was bad. You could tell it's kind of like you watched Jurassic Park and then couldn't afford a good Jurassic Park for kids. So you ordered it from Wish, but I guess Wish wasn't around back then. So I guess you went to Chinatown and just like, what did they have? And grabbed it off the rack. All the dinosaurs look kind of like a real dinosaur. Like, oh, that was kind of in Jurassic Park. It was dumb. You could tell that they didn't have a direction they wanted to go in. The production issues behind the scenes definitely make themselves known. As many people have mentioned, pick one direction. You're either going for they have personalities, they talk, they do stuff, or they're real. You got to go one way or the other. And I don't know why they didn't just let them either end the movie or have them all die. Like, it doesn't make any sense that they were like, yeah, they all found a secret place to live. So we're just teaching kids Hollow Earth theory now. They're just there with, King Kong and all those guys. Like, no. It was dumb. It didn't respect its audience. It didn't respect kids. It was a cash grab because Jurassic Park did really well. And I'm sorry. Wherever your coworker that loved it, I'm glad that he is easily entertained. But this goes down, in my opinion, as one of the worst Disney movies of the past 20, 30 years, maybe of all time.
I was going to say, while you were talking about the direction and stuff and the talking points, I know one of their thoughts to compromise was to not have any of the dinosaurs talk until they met the lemurs. And that's why they brought the lemurs in. And then they were going to just have it be Surrey. And it was going to be played by a person in a suit. That doesn't make
any sense. See, that would have made the movie more entertaining, at least.
They
Especially
did
if it was like
this.
If it was like a bad suit where it was very obvious a person dressed. That at least would have been something interesting to watch.
See, I try to imagine this movie with the graphics and then just a dude in a suit. And it would be so funky. Nick, is there anything that you dislike about this film?
I had a weird Mandela effect happen when I rewatched this, where in the beginning I was like, oh yeah, this is the movie. I didn't really remember, I was just getting into the beginning scene and I did not really remember anything about the movie. And I was like, I do remember that it was kind of this family-friendly dinosaur movie. I just really remembered the meteor coming down. But I had this weird Mandela effect happen where I was like, oh yeah, this is the movie where this movie is actually really awesome because none of the dinosaurs even talk, and it's kind of this brutal escapade that they have to make in order to try to find vegetation again or something. But so yeah, in a weird way, my brain actually remembered in some sort of parallel universe that they did actually make a cool version of this movie where they didn't talk at all, and it was a bit more dark and a bit more just not necessarily scary, but maybe more thrilling and exciting. So I just think it would be cool to see that, to see what the original idea and the original intention would have been like. Also, would be cool to see the differences between the Styracosaurus and the Carnotaurus. What kind of dynamic and feeling would that give the audience? I don't know. I guess that's I would like to see the original idea played out.
I'll kind of go with mine real quick because I've forgotten it twice. So I'm going to say it before I forget it for a third time. Obviously, the mixed directions, because at points you forget the lemurs are even in the film. They kind of just go away. So at that point, why include them, right? So the mixed directions there, but also, did the Ankylosaurus, especially acting like a dog, just influence Disney and all their movies for their sidekicks? Because even in Frozen, we see this trope going on, and I don't know if that's a good thing. David, would you agree there?
I think it's one of those tropes that is never going to die.
I blame this movie. I just remember as a kid,
this is where it started, right here.
I just remember as a kid, the Ankylosaurus, especially because Walking with Dinosaurs had come out, and the Ankylosaurus they kind of made cool. Doesn't look right, but it kills the T-Rex. They actually made it pretty formidable. And then this movie comes out, and it's all dog-like, and I was like, what is this? I
think this movie would have been cool if, since they were getting personalities and all that. What if the carnivores had a mafia going? And you had the big guys as the Godfathers, and they sent out the little raptors and stuff as their minions to do things. That could have been way
Shark Tale.
Shark Tale's underwater, okay? And if we want to get into that about how Finding Nemo is a much better underwater movie than Shark Tale, we can do it.
All right, so on Movie Fights Episode 1, we will be doing Finding Nemo versus the song with the car wash, or the movie with the car wash song.
The car wash underwater.
There's Finding Nemo. There's 10,000 leagues under the sea. There's 50 feet of whale poo, and then there's you, Shark Tales.
It's
right, but these two came out do you remember that era of a decade where every movie came out the same with DreamWorks and Disney, and it was the exact same movie just done Bugs Life, Ants, Finding Nemo, Shark Tale. Why? It was such
because Jeffrey Katzenberger did not like Disney at all. He was out for blood.
I just don't. But none of his movies were good enough to take away from what the Disney ones were. You got to have talent to be able to win that war.
I think it was just the time too, because you also had Volcano and Dante's Peak and
Armageddon and Deep Impact.
Yeah.
Martha Wayne, and then Tony Stark's parents.
Whoa, 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 whoa.
Why did you say that name?
I don't know.
I was trying to figure out, is We're Back, is that a Disney movie? It's not, right? You said it's directed by Steven Spielberg.
It is not. No, it is not a Disney movie.
So did Disney do kind of a counterpart to We're Back as well? Because we were just saying Ants versus Bugs Life and all the other silly counterpart.
It seems to just be the kind of computer generated ones. I don't think that they really had any animated beef. I don't think Disney really had an answer for Prince of Egypt. Of course, Shrek was their big, huge hit that they got to have their own thing that Disney didn't really have anything equal. But I think We're Back was on its own because I believe this was Disney's first big dinosaur movie.
But We're Back was not Disney.
Correct.
Yeah, that's so interesting.
I just looked at the details on it. It was made by Steven Spielberg's Amblimation, released by Universal, because obviously he was their dinosaur guy.
Yeah, because he also did Land Before Time. So
see, so Spielberg just knocks it out of the park with dinosaurs, guys.
Yeah, straight up, dude. Land Before Time is great.
That'll be our next one of our other future videos. Why is Steven Spielberg so much better at dinosaur movies?
I think what we've learned from this is that if you keep Phil Tippett out of the creative process when it comes to dinosaurs, it ends up being not a half bad movie.
All right, so Greyson, if there's something in this movie you could remove, what would it be?
The mating scene with the lemurs at the beginning. That is so stupid and irritating. I hate that scene so much. Oh my God, I hate that scene.
The way that they start calling out all together, and it's obviously human voice actors, but they're like, whoa, whoa.
You're like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
No, but honestly, that, and then for the early 2000s, it played pretty heavily on just stereotypical stuff. The voice for the Triceratops, being the sassy old black lady in the group, and then the wise lemur it was stupid. It was all stupid. The story was stupid. The dialogue was stupid. The movie can be entertaining with some of the fights and everything, but boy, it's so bad.
So you're saying you didn't like the line, "I have a monkey on my back"?
Actually, I stand corrected. That makes me love this movie so much.
It's not even a monkey.
Yeah, I'm converted. I'm in.
I mean, you convinced me. I've been swayed.
All right, Sam, what about you? If you could remove something from this film, what would it be?
Probably the Ankylosaurus being a dog, or dog-like, would be the thing that I would remove. Because that's just strange and weird.
Yeah, the fact that some dinosaurs talk and then others don't was also odd. Some strictly don't talk, including the Carnotaurus, the Ankylosaurus, some of the background prey dinosaurs. So that was odd. All right, so because I know Sam has to leave soon, so before we get to me just critiquing the dinosaur designs, Sam, what would you rate it? Would you recommend it?
I'll come back to me. I'll have to think about that for a second.
All right, we'll go to Brendan. I'm going to go in a wacky order so no one knows who I'm about to get.
I don't know, probably 6 out of 10. I'd recommend it to someone who has kids, but I mean, I wouldn't just watch it to watch it unless. I mean, the only reason I watched it now was because I was refreshing my memory for this.
All right, we'll jump to Greyson.
Throwing me a curveball there, Keegan. Honestly, probably if I'm allowed to do point scores on this, I'm going to say probably a 5.6, 5.7. It's not a bad movie. I wouldn't necessarily recommend it. I'd probably, show it to my kids to show what movies looked like when I was a kid and show how far they've come along, especially with CGI and, computer generated characters. Cause this was definitely, this was the early ages. But yeah, I mean, if there were people that had kids and they just wanted to have something on in the background that they could ignore that their kids would just watch, easily recommend. But if you're like, looking for a good movie, I'd say skip it.
So, Grayson, what does that say about us, considering our work put this on for us to watch, and then they left the office? I'm just kidding.
I don't know if I take offense just yet, but I think they're laying out some signs.
Could you imagine if they did that? All right. So, Matt, what about you?
Let's go 5.5 on this one. It missed out on so much. I mean, I've already griped a few times about it, but it just 5.5 on this one. I recommend it for kindergartners, first graders, maybe. I mean, a young audience, but no more than that.
All right, Nick, what about you?
I would say it just depends on the audience. I probably would recommend this. And I think other people that are into CGI would recommend this kind of as a historical look on the evolution of CGI. I think it could probably be probably pretty highly recommended as a look back into history, to just see kind of what peak CGI was in 2000. I probably wouldn't put this movie on if I was like on a date and wanted to hook up or something. It probably wouldn't necessarily be the best background movie. So yeah, I guess I would probably recommend it to really young kids that maybe aren't interested as much into dinosaurs, and their parents are like, "Oh, I wish my kid was more into dinosaurs." It's like, well, you should have them watch Disney's Dinosaur. Maybe they'll like it. Yeah, I mean, there are also better examples of CGI back in that time. Like you guys had mentioned, the BBC documentary Walking with Dinosaurs. That to this day is still said by people that are experienced with CGI to be the water in the BBC Walking with Dinosaurs. People to this day say they have no idea how they created such incredible water CGI for that BBC documentary. So I guess there is better CGI things that you could recommend at this time. But overall, yeah, probably a 6.5.
Nick, I'm just going to let you know I might make a short of your explanation of how you would rate this movie, because that was awesome. David, all right, what are we giving it?
I'm super concerned that Nick brought up, like, I wouldn't put this on if I was trying to hook up. Like, what? Why was that even an option? I mean, I guess if you're the girl that's really into lemurs and you're like, hey, you won't reject me, right? You can do the first scene together.
Wait, you mean to tell me the mating scene doesn't set the mood?
Yeah, dude, the mating scene. Come on. Aladar, he even chimes in. It's like, what the hell is that? But no, I only said that because
is that like your roommate in the other room making the noises? Just
yeah, exactly. You want to put on like, at least my opinion of it is like, I want to put on like a boring movie that you don't really want to watch. So that was the only reason why I thought that.
And if you also want a movie that makes her lose total respect for you, this is the one to go with.
Yeah.
This one right here.
Yeah, that's why I said probably not on this one. You might lose more dates that way.
So, in my opinion, a 5 is mediocre. Like, that's middle of the road. Like, it was all right. Like, you were entertained, you spent your time, it was a movie. I don't think that this movie deserves that. I'm going to go with a 3. That is what I would rate this movie, because that's about how many brain cells went into the creation of it. It was, it's so bad. Just from a story standpoint, it's awful. It makes no sense how some dinosaurs talk, some don't. I still don't know why there's lemurs there. They just end up in a no. There was nothing good about this movie, even from a historical standpoint of look how bad CGI was. Again, we had better CGI from movies made 5-6 years before this movie came out. So there's really no reason for this to exist except for a pretty good ride at Animal Kingdom and some awesome Happy Meal toys. You know what? Because of those, I'm going to bump it up to a 4. It had good merch, so you know what? We're going to give it a 4. It was almost a passable movie, but it was not good. I don't know if you guys are trying not to offend Disney. I don't know if it's just you love dinosaurs so much that you gotta kick it up, but I did not enjoy this movie.
It was those finger puppets, dude.
I didn't like it as a kid. I don't like it now. I don't expect I'm ever gonna like it in the future. I don't recommend it to kindergartners or to first graders. Do literally anything else. Go outside, stare at a tree for 20 minutes. You've done better for your life than watching this movie.
All right.
You can do so much more.
Finger
This
puppets.
is
So at least it affected you positively in that way.
that's why I got a 4 instead. I agree. Those puppets were the bomb.
All right, so David, ultimate test. Would you rather watch this or read a book from a world-renowned, sought-after author?
Oh, hands down the book because I'm entertained by that. That's
if that tells
that's
you
going to be
everything.
entertaining. That's going to be funny right there. I would absolutely read that book. And you know what? I would act out that book with puppets too.
I have a question for David. What if they redid Disney's Dinosaur, but they changed the cast to the cast of Emperor's New Groove?
Dinosaur's New Groove.
But like it's the same script, same everything. We're just changing the voice actors.
Yeah, I guess so.
Are they taking it
dinosaurs.
seriously?
Yes,
Or
but
are they doing it comedically?
No, they're dinosaurs. Everything's the same, but instead of like people and llamas, it's dinosaurs.
Oh, so it's Emperor's New Groove, but with dinosaurs instead of people?
Yeah.
And like he takes a potion and turns into a lemur?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. We just wrote a better movie. We just made Dinosaur at least a 6 or 7.
All right.
Yeah.
So
No, I can't do it.
if you guys want to help us start our GoFundMe for our new remake on Emperor's New Groove, we're hoping to get not sued by Disney, so we're going to call it something slightly different. Dinosaur's New Groove.
Hold on. Because Emperor's New Groove would still be a better movie than ours, though.
Dinosaur's Old Groove.
What about just Groovy Dinosaur?
I mean, hey, we can make it happen. We just need to start this GoFundMe. We'll make some really, really nice hand puppets, and we'll go from there.
I worry about us.
Hey, we got to have a little fun sometimes. Our town has made a local
And if you want to have a
celebrity.
little fun, don't watch this movie.
If you're in Castle Rock, you can go meet our new local celebrity, the Sprouts Rock. You might see a short of it tomorrow. Might be on our YouTube channel. It's a now tourist attraction in Castle Rock because people keep running into it. Sam, jumping back to you for your rating.
I would probably I would say a 5. And I would recommend it to kids. I don't know who heard David, but his palate's all fucked up.
It was Aladar. He used to come into my room at night, and we're going to leave it there, but it was not good times.
All right, things that will be in our After Dark series that we're going to kick off, right? Let's see. This one's hard. I love the Carnotaurus designs. Not very accurate, but they're just pretty iconic. I'm not a huge fan of the lemurs or the ankylosaurs. It's pretty bare bones, but it also doesn't pull the punches all the time. Like dinosaurs are dying from the travels. I love dinosaurs. I'll say like a 5.5, maybe 6 if I'm feeling up to it. Carnotaurus, really, what I recommend, just go find the Carnotaurus scenes on YouTube. Just go watch those. They are the best by far. The best things. I haven't seen the ride yet. Future me that you saw at the beginning of the episode has been on the ride, so I can tell you there if the Carnotaurus is the best part of the ride too. But yeah,
And it is. It's the best part of the ride.
all right. See, the Carnotaurus hands down just best thing
Honestly,
that came from this movie.
The movie might have been better if the Carnotaurs were in it more. If they would have had more scenes and more stuff, and maybe like taken out some more characters. Like if all the lemurs would have gotten eaten at one point, oh my god, that would have been a great scene.
Oh,
They had bull horns. They could have just rammed all the lemurs with their bull horns. Which
Or
also,
like you don't even see the scene because it's a kid movie, but at one point it just like comes around a corner and just has a lemur stuck on its horn, just like impaled.
I was just about to say, you just go to the tree swinging scene and you just see the Carnotaur just whipping around, just stabbing lemurs with its horn, just swinging its head back and forth.
I'm into that. That would have been great.
all right. So well, let's make this happen, Disney. We know at some point you'll probably buy Jurassic Park, so let's just get these Carnotaurus integrated and have them kill the Jurassic Park one because it was lame, and we'll go from there. Speaking of dinosaurs, I guess I'll give you guys some breakdown for anyone watching. Ankylosaurus, was it accurate? No. Maybe we'll give that a 5% accurate. It had a club and it was armored, so 5%. Brachiosaurus, we'll give a little bit higher. It was very 90s in design, like the Jurassic Park one. We'll give like a 0% because it's actually Giraffe Titan that they designed that one off of. So based off of Giraffe Titan, I'd give about 75%. Kind of the good thing for a lot of these is they're not shrink wrapped like we see even with Jurassic Park dinos, where they look like they're like dying because you can see all their skull like holes and everything. So that was good. Carnotaurus, as far as iconic, 10 out of 10. Scientifically, though, probably a 6 out of 10. They are far too large. They're about 40 or 50 feet long. Real Carnotaurus are about 25 feet. Not quite so bulky. Also, none of these dinosaurs really lived together. Iguanodon would have been double the size of the Carnotaurus, so the movie would have looked quite a bit different. The Iguanodons, probably a 4 or a 5. They have some weird design choices. Oviraptor being featherless was weird. I'll give that a 2. The Stygimoloch, since it really is just
wait. Did you switch from out of 100% to out of 10?
Yeah, some of them are out of 100 because they're that bad.
Okay, I was just like, wait, why did he say like 2? Is it 2 out of 100? Oh my god! Was it a fish?
No, the Ankylosaurus is out of 100. It was that bad. By far the worst thing in this film, dinosaur wise, I will say. Brachiosaurus is pretty close to what we saw in the 90s before Giraffe Titan was described. We had it as a African species of Brachiosaurus, and so being more complete, that's what all the Brachiosauruses were based off of. Carnotaurus, being that it was just replacement for Tyrannosaurus, kind of got the beef up. I do love it. Iconic, 10 out of 10. Accuracy wise, probably like a 5 or 6.
It doesn't, like, Carnotaurus doesn't have the bull horns that it has in this movie. Right?
No, they do. They do.
They have the horns on each side of their head like that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's accurate. Iguanodon, probably a 4 or 5. Not terrible. Oviraptors, maybe another of those hundreds. So we'll give it a 30 out of 100. It's better than the Ankylosaurus, but it's bad. It's like shrink wrap. Its arms are broken because dinosaurs couldn't pronate their hands. Something dinosaur movies have been copying since Jurassic Park because there's actors in the costumes, so they held their hands like that. Dinosaurs had to hold their hands like that. If they did it like that, their wrist would be broken. So wouldn't be doing that. Let's see. Pachycephalosaurus, which was Stygimoloch in the movie, because Stygimoloch's a juvenile Pachycephalosaurus. Actually, not bad. We'll give that like a 7 out of 10. Pachyrhinosaurus, another thing, probably 7 out of 10, pretty good. Parasaurolophus, better than the Jurassic Park ones. I'll give an 8 out of 10. It actually even has a beak. Pteranodon, 8 out of 10. Struthiomimus, 2 out of 100. It's the second worst dinosaur in here. It's shrink wrapped. Its head's wonky. No feathers. Styracosaurus, probably 8 out of 10. And last but not least, Velociraptor. We'll give like a 4 out of 10, at least for the size. Unfortunately, its arms are broke, and it's featherless, so it drops points there. But at least, unlike a lot of dinosaur media, which just copies Jurassic Park, they gave it its correct size. So there's my breakdown. David, any shockers there for you?
No, I mean, I think you pretty much nailed it. It's going to be, I think, a long time before we ever see a 100% as accurate as we can to what dinosaurs were. I think, again, Jurassic Park and such has just drilled it home in so many people's minds what a dinosaur looks like that it's going to be a very long time before we come around to the more realistic of what they probably were. For example, like the smaller velociraptors with wings. That's something that people are just now starting to be like, oh, okay, because they're just not as cool, or at least not as cool in the same way, So I do think it'll be a while before we get a really good take on the realistic dinosaurs. So I think that's very fair grades.
I would say if you haven't watched Prehistoric Planet, pretty good. First season's not as good as the second. They went a little too animalistic where they just kind of showed a lot of mundane things. The second one, they brought more fun things into it. But the Velociraptors in there, probably my favorite ones. At one point, they actually used their wings to glide down a cliff to capture prey. So it was pretty cool. Nick, any surprises there?
No, I guess, was it just the behavior of the Ankylosaurus?
Oh no, the look. Ankylosaurus looks much different, much bigger. Yeah, there's a lot about it.
Just a tiny baby one, a tiny baby doggy one.
No. See, now that you said it that way, might have to drop it 0 out of 100. Just, oh man, yeah, its behavior was really bad. It influences me, but just like design wise, if I just look at them, the Ankylosaurus by far is the worst one. Struthiomimus and Oviraptor are close, though Jurassic World didn't do a whole lot better with the Oviraptor outside of giving it feathers. So, Greyson, any shockers there?
I'd say you're way more well versed in dinosaur specifics than I am, Keegan. So I'm going to say no.
Hey, some of the models I was actually kind of surprised with how well they still kind of hold up with how far we've progressed. Like the Parasaurolophus, compared to what was coming out at the time, looked much better. Just shape wise, it's kind of like when you look at the Giganotosaurus from Jurassic World and they for some reason gave it a large spine and it's just not in the fossil material. It's just like he wanted to make it cool to be cool. I don't know. Anyone, Brennan, any final thoughts on Disney's Dinosaur?
No, I don't have one.
Any thoughts on The Good Dinosaur?
Never seen it.
Don't see it. Let's see, Sam, any final thoughts on Disney's Dinosaur?
No, not really. I think we've covered it all, or you guys all covered it all.
Grayson, anything you want to add to Disney's Dinosaur? Just deep dive.
I mean, if you got 2 hours to kill or want something on just while you're doing chores, this is the movie for you. That's pretty much it. I got nothing else to really add at this point.
Nick, what about you?
If you're teaching a CGI history class, this is the movie for you. I did want to ask a final question to Keegan, the dinosaur knowledge master. Why did they put feathers on the dinosaurs on the Velociraptor in Jurassic Park 3, but then they just got rid of it in Chris Pratt Jurassic Park?
It's different strands of genetics. That's how they say it. And the park specifically makes them scarier and more what people expect. So that's why we reverted back. But the ones in 3 were like left to be wild for a while. So they were starting to kind of become like their natural self, or it's Jurassic Park logic. You just got to kind of go, okay.
Yeah, it works. It's Hollywood.
Yeah, movie universe wise, yeah, that's kind of because they Wu does explain it that way in Jurassic World as far as they wanted more teeth and stuff. As far as filmmaking behind the scenes, I know Jack Horner pushed for them to put feathers, and that was kind of the as far as they would go. That's also why their skulls start looking more like a Velociraptor in JP3. And then for some reason, I don't know what they did with the Raptors in Jurassic World because they look terrible.
Yeah.
The worst designs in the entire series as far as Raptors go.
Yeah.
Horner, because Jack Horner is a big paleontologist, he's also the reason why the Raptors and the dinosaurs in the first one, especially the Raptors, didn't flick their tongues like lizards, because he said they were closer to birds than lizards. And so they actually took that out. You can actually see the claymation stop motion stuff with them flicking their tongues before they even got that far in development. And he came in and said, don't do that. But yeah, and then they went too far in reverse because Jurassic Park 3 wasn't the most liked, but it's not the most hated of the series. We saw the Last Jedi version of Jurassic Park come out with Fallen Kingdom.
Yeah.
Grayson, is that accurate, you think? Fallen Kingdom is the Last Jedi of the Jurassic franchise. It just subverts your expectation for the hell of it.
I mean, I could see that argument. I would say it's definitely the if we're going to draw direct parallels, I'd probably say it's in the similarity to that just being the worst out of the sequel trilogy. So, but yeah, it's not good.
Right. Yeah, no. Unfortunately, with Jurassic World and that series, they went too far in trying to course correct and play it safe at the same time, and then not having a visual or vision for the entire trilogy, which I think we can see. They retcon things randomly. She's a clone. She's not a clone, which was weird to do. Again, very Last Jedi, Rise of Skywalker-ish, where they came in and try to retcon some of the more disliked things in that movie.
Well, I think if like Universal plays it right, since they have Peacock now, they could do something where they have like a spin-off of Jurassic Park and where they have, popcorn, family-friendly movies where it's like major events that everybody goes sees. They could do like A24 style-esque, or since they own Blumhouse, make Blumhouse be one of the producers on it and make it like a adult horror-themed movie like what they were trying to do with it originally, since they had James Wan directing, and let that actually play out and actually see where it goes instead of just tiptoeing around the darkness of the subject of, dinosaurs living around people at this point.
With locusts. Yeah, so no, they made a lot of choices with the trilogy to just make fans happy. That's why you see the T-Rex always kind of being like the hero, because they're like, that's what the fans liked from the first movie, clearly.
I mean, we still do like it, to be fair.
We do like the T-Rex from the first movie, but it's always like T-Rex ex machina. It's kind of like the Eagles in the Hobbit movie, where they're always just there to help out now for whatever reason. Now the T-Rex is just there.
Do we want to get into that? We can get into the Eagles of Middle Earth. We're going to be here for another several hours, but we can do it.
Hey, we can do a Lord of the Rings deep dive. There's movies and TV shows coming out, so we can tie it in.
I don't have that much time to take off work, Keaton. Jeez.
Hey,
yeah, we'd have to. Yeah, we got to leave Rings of Power out of it, I think.
Yeah, if you want to have a real heated, just pissed off session, we'll do Rings of Power.
That would definitely require alcohol to get through.
So, anyways, I think we need to do a deep dive eventually about why did Michael Crichton hate theme parks?
Right, because of Westworld.
Like, yeah, bro was just convinced they don't work.
Hey, that was his next movie. Yeah. He was like, you know what we're going to do? We're going to do Pirates of the Caribbean. And then they did it. No, I'm just kidding. He didn't actually do that. But yeah, you're right. Westworld would actually be kind of a fun one to do. And then take a look at that. We will be back. I know, Nick, we still have to re-record the Dinosaurus review that we recorded That one, David, is a gem. If you want to watch it, it's from the
Also,
70s.
Guys are down to do one in the future. I've been trying to see if Keegan will do this one with me, but the live action Popeye featuring Robin Williams and Shelley Duvall from The Shining.
I've been to Popeye's grave.
All right.
So, Keegan, on your list of dinosaur movies, is the Velocipaster making that cut? Is it on that list?
I actually made
Hell
that
yeah,
reference
this is
to
number
David
one.
last night. You've seen
I'm gonna watch
Velocipaster,
that
right?
now. Immediately after this, I'm gonna watch Velocipaster. I've never heard of that.
Oh, do it. In the intro, in the first 5 minutes, there's a scene that made me laugh. And you'll know the scene. You just text me when you see the scene.
I'm
'Cause
down.
It's hilarious.
That
It's
sounds-
hilarious. All right. So, I mean, this one didn't go off too terribly. We actually stayed on topic this time. We didn't go 8 hours onto other subjects. But Grayson and David, like I said, will both be back for the pop culture podcast. Nick will be back for sure for Dinosaurs, and he wants to do Popeye as well as a couple other ones. We've actually filmed a deep dive with him, but we have not released it. So the secret one will be released at some point. Matt will be back because obviously he's always back on the channel, him and Sam, as well as our Cool Sports Chat podcast is kicking off. So you'll see Brendan as well. He'll be on it.
Speaking of sports, real quick, Keegan, I do like your Peyton Manning jersey. That looks pretty sharp with the old school blue.
It's not a Broncos jersey.
You sure it looks like Peyton Manning, number 18, right?
Does that match your tattoo that you got of him the year they won?
Oh, man.
Super Bowl 50, yeah.
So one final thing, David has lots of Disney stuff. So if you've watched this and want to see more Disney related content, David, tell them where they can find it.
You can find that over at Abnormal Voyages. We got our Instagram going up with posts, and then of course YouTube is where you find all the episodes. And if you were interested in seeing the dinosaur ride, we have pretty much a full ride through on our Animal Kingdom video that came out earlier this year. It shows you the inside, the museum, all that stuff. Most of the ride, and then Hester and Chester's Dino-Rama, which is next door to it, because they kind of have it split. It's like fun, hokey dinosaurs and then scientific, real dinosaurs. So yeah, pretty cool. Whole area, of course, is going away. I'm excited about what's to come, but it will be sad to lose dinosaurs. I think it's been there since that park opened. It was the only kind of because we could do a whole deep dive at this after you go, Keegan. But there was going to be a whole land there called Mythic Kingdom, which was going to be about mythological things with dinosaurs, dragons, all of that. Very, very cool. But that all got nixed, never happened. The closest thing we got was having a dinosaur section. So it's kind of saying goodbye to what was a pretty big part of the history of this park. So definitely worth checking out. But yeah, Abnormal Voyages. We got some really cool stuff coming out. We just had the last of our Disney content for the Disney 100. And we're going to have plenty more coming out, new episodes every week.
Also, Nick, you have your new channel and your new music that you've been releasing weekly. Do you want to tell everyone where to find it?
Yes, absolutely. Super excited about my new music channel. I've been composing music since 2008 on Logic, and I am now releasing all of my own original music, and that is at my channel, which is called Eclectosphere, ECLECTISPHERE_music. And yeah, I have some pretty wild psychedelic videos that I am taking a long time to create, but it's basically using 3 different generative softwares that are assisted by AI that you can sort of like program in some really, really interesting, really in-depth, cool ways. And so the video is pretty psychedelic and cool to go along with the music, and I hope you enjoy.
All right. And for us, as always, more deep dives will be on the left. The last of which was our longest deep dive, Ghostbusters. For more here, just at Culz, will be on the right. And don't forget to like and give us a subscribe. And as always, please let us know if there's a movie you want us to watch and go into more depth about than a normal review. Tell us in those comments below.